Welcome to today's Explainer. We're unpacking something absolutely wild today. We're looking at a truly radical concept from Beata Mosór's research that challenges literally everything we thought we knew about the future of money, the energy market, and most importantly, your personal role within that system. We are talking about a future where you don't just passively consume power or earn a standard paycheck. No, in this model, you literally become the engine of a new macroeconomic reality. We're looking at a massive systemic shift here, so let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Can a single tiny quant of energy actually replace money? I mean, it sounds like straight up science fiction, right? But think about it. The traditional definition of fiat money, currency backed by institutional debt and central banks, it's facing an unprecedented crisis right now. As artificial intelligence automates more and more cognitive work, the fundamental metric of value is shifting rapidly away from human labor hours. Instead, the real, tangible anchors of value are becoming computational power and physical energy. This completely flips our understanding of what a currency actually is.
So, to really wrap our heads around this, we turn to the research of Beata Mosór and her concept of Soloeconomy 2.0. And guys, this is not just about the remote work trend. It's a massive, systemic deconstruction. Artificial intelligence and decentralized technologies are actively shifting the center of market gravity. They're pulling it away from those massive, rigid 20th century corporate hierarchies and placing it directly onto the shoulders of you, the highly optimized, autonomous individual.
Section 1. The collapse of the traditional model. Let's look at the systemic deconstruction we are living through right now. The contrast here is just stark. The 20th century gave us what we can call the solid economy. It was all about massive centralization where we all depended on corporate giants. But the demographic data proves that we are atomizing. Just to put this into perspective, we are talking about over 76 million single-person households in the European Union alone. That massive social shift is literally forcing our energy networks to decentralize. AI is stepping in to replace that heavy corporate infrastructure, turning individuals into independent, autonomous nodes.
Moving on to Section 2, the birth of the new solopreneur. So, who exactly is operating this new atomized network? And this brilliantly illustrates the shift. Traditional macroeconomics leans on four pretty rigid pillars: households, businesses, governments, and countries. But Mosór introduces a highly disruptive fifth pillar, the individual. You're no longer just a household that provides basic labor and consumes goods. Instead, this independent individual uses intellectual property and AI as an exponential engine of value creation. You aren't just a worker anymore, you are your very own economic hub. Which brings us to Section 3, you as the energy creator. Because to survive in this new model, you kind of have to step off the fragile, centralized grid to achieve true sovereignty. A highly individualized economy just can't rely on massive centralized power plants where one single failure causes citywide blackouts. The foundation of the solo economy is the microgrid. And no, it's not just slapping a few solar panels on a roof. By using advanced AI algorithms like Siemens management systems, for example, your home setup becomes an autonomous trading agent. It predicts the weather, manages your power loads, and actively trades your excess energy on a peer-to-peer network. You become a literal energy creator. So the absolutely crucial point here is how you actually operationalize this energy sovereignty. It basically breaks down into a digestible three-step procedure. First step, generation. You produce microeconomic input via solar or wind. Second, storage. You use home batteries or your electric vehicle to accumulate those surpluses. And third, monetization. Utilizing vehicle-to-grid technologies and AI, you use that stored power to run your own AI models or you sell it right back to the network. You are literally taking a fixed utility cost and flipping it into a dynamic, liquid financial asset.
Let's move to Section 4, the energy quant, our new currency. Let's see how this builds and completely reshapes monetary policy. Just as the UN recognizes water and sanitation as fundamental human rights, Mosór proposes a really striking modern parallel. To prevent us from sliding into some techno-feudal dystopia controlled by algorithm monopolies, base-level energy and computing power actually have to be treated as human rights. She calls these concepts Universal Basic Energy, or UBE, and Universal Basic Compute, UBC.
This reveals a super fascinating structural critique of universal basic income. Mosór argues that fiat currency is essentially a lagging indicator. Think about it. Printing money without actually creating value just drives inflation, right? Conversely, universal basic compute and energy act as leading indicators. Instead of just handing out depreciating cash, giving individuals access to raw compute power and energy actually provides them with the modern means of production. It allows anyone to kickstart the cycle of value creation, regardless of their starting financial capital. To measure value here, Mosór borrows a fascinating conceptual metaphor from physics: the deep, inseparable connection between energy and time. In an AI-driven economy, the human time you invest, combined with the physical electricity your algorithms consume, become entirely intertwined. Your wealth isn't quantified in arbitrary, fluctuating dollars anymore, but in fractions of processor time and joules of energy. It is a fundamental shift in how we understand our own economic output. Section 5. The physical barrier to AI development. Because before we get totally lost in the digital clouds, we really need to ground this theory in the harsh reality of today's physical supply chains. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the great paradox it reveals. We're talking about building a highly decentralized future for individuals, yet it depends entirely on highly centralized rocks of AI. As data from the International Energy Agency shows, China is currently the leading refiner for 19 out of the 20 critical energy-related minerals analyzed here. To really drive home that geopolitical risk, consider this staggering reality. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, China currently controls up to 98% of the global production of gallium. And gallium is an absolutely critical mineral required for next-generation, high-performance semiconductors. If there is a sudden disruption in this highly centralized supply chain, the entire decentralized Soloeconomy architecture could face a devastating macroeconomic shock. So how do we secure this new architecture against those kinds of shocks? Well, the research outlines a few absolutely necessary strategic solutions. First, we urgently need to build a circular economy focused on e-waste recycling. Second, we must relentlessly pursue supply chain diversification away from single-nation dominance. And third, we've got to invest heavily in innovative synthetic production technologies, similar to what's currently being deployed in Japan. The hardware absolutely must be as resilient as the software. We've covered a massive paradigm shift in today's explainer. We're moving from a rigid, corporate-controlled grid to a fluid, AI-driven soloeconomia, where your computing power and energy generation are the ultimate currency. The infrastructure is evolving, the demographics are already shifted, and the technology is literally already here. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. When the grid becomes fully decentralized and value is measured in quants of power and attention, are you ready to become the battery of the new economy? Keep learning, and I'll see you in our next explainer.